Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for the next 29 minutes. Now, as you come to expect from this particular program, we do our best to utilize it as a vehicle to put out information to the two communities that we serve, both Whitman and Hanson, and sometimes beyond, depending on the show or depending on the topic itself. And the topics that we cover, a lot of times we try to focus on what's going on in the two communities, whether it's an upcoming event, maybe it's unique circumstances, maybe it's elections, maybe it's town meeting, maybe it's an issue that people are talking about. Well, it so happens today we are talking politics a little bit. We have a gentleman here who is going to be on the ballot come May 21st. In the town of Hanson, we have Dave Hanlon, who is running for tree warden. Dave?
Kevin, thank you for your time.
Welcome to our palatial studio here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, tell the fine folks who don't know you a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I moved to the town of Hanson at 5 years old with my parents. Lived in the town most of my life. Married, have 2 adult children and 3 stepchildren. I've worked in a major retail setting. I'm responsible for like a $53 million a year budget, and then ran a small private mailing company with 50 employees. Again, multi-million-dollar budget. And then the opportunity presented itself to come work full-time for the highway department. I started part-time in 1988. I had the opportunity to go full-time in 1997, and it was a chance for me to give back to my community that I live in. And I'm currently the highway supervisor, second in charge of the highway department, working for the highway surveyor, Bob Brown. I've been involved in the tree work in town since Dick Harris was highway surveyor. Mm-hmm. While he was highway surveyor and tree warden, I did some work with him laying out what trees needed to be taken care of, some of the tree work. Same thing with Bob Brown, make a plan to see what trees needed attention first. And I've been working very closely with National Grid. They have a vegetation removal program to take down trees that are along their power lines, and we've been doing that. I just, as a matter of fact, on my way in the door, I was talking to them. They're coming back into town next week to do some more tree work.
So what made you want to be tree warden? Because you are the appointed tree warden right now, right?
I'm currently the appointed tree warden. Back in December, the Board of Selectmen appointed me to fill the vacancy left by Bob Brown, to fill the vacancy from December until the election in May. The reason I wanted to be tree warden is because it's the town does not have a tree department. We have the highway department. The men from the highway department do a lot of tree work, removing trees, picking the trees up out of the roads. And we also, as tree warden, we contract out a lot of the work, a lot of the big work, to remove the damaged, diseased, dead trees from the road, anything that's a hazard. So it's something that it's public safety. It ties in hand with the highway department and what we do there for public safety, looking out for the interests of the people in town. And since October, we've removed, well, let me back up. The budget for the tree department is $5,000 a year.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
So last October town meeting, the residents were good enough to allot another $20,000 into that line to remove more trees.
Okay. And that's what the money is strictly for, is just the removal, or is there anything else that budget takes care of?
The removal and some equipment, a chainsaw, we have a grapple hook for picking trees up, logs up on the side of the road. Okay. When the highway department goes out to pick them up. But it's 99.9% just for tree removal, and the police details that go with it. That's something a lot of people don't understand. We have the tree company come in, but we also have to pay police officers for for safety of the crew, safety of the public. So it eats up a lot of money. Since October, we've removed 67 trees, I believe, 67 major hazardous trees, and we've gone through a little over 50% of that money, and in the next few weeks we will probably expel the remaining balance of that, keeping some money set aside for an emergency.
So I believe that this race for you actually have a race for tree warden. Wait a minute, I'm getting this just in. It's the only race on the ballot.
It's the only race on the ballot in the town of
race on the
Hanson.
ballot. Why is this? Why has this become the big race this year?
I'm really not sure. There's another gentleman that works for the highway department, Mike Means, great guy. He is looking to better himself, improve his resume a little bit, and he felt that this was one way to do it.
So in layman's terms, anybody who is watching at home and this scratching their head, I think you kind of gave kind of a looser overview as to what a tree warden is. What are the specific duties, the Cliff's Notes version, of a tree warden in the town of Hanson?
Okay, under Mass General Law, Chapter 87, the tree warden is responsible for all shade trees within, or all trees on public property in town, whether they're roadside trees or trees that are in parks or whatnot. The tree warden is responsible to make sure that those trees are maintained. With the budget that our department has, that the town of Hanson has for trees, basically the tree program is to eliminate the hazards before they happen. With the recent events of what took place in New Hampshire, where a firefighter was killed by a tree falling.
Abington, Canton.
A couple in Abington died, a couple right here from Whitman.
Yeah.
And it's horrendous. 2 years ago, we had a gentleman in Halifax, a limb fell down, he hit it on his motorcycle and he died.
Yep, I remember that. I remember that.
And it's terrible. There's so many trees that need to be removed, and the amount of money that's allotted, it's really tough. So it's a lot of prioritizing. There's some work that the men from the highway department can do, but a lot of it, for safety reasons, we hire a professional company. When I took over back in December, one of the first things I did was I went back out to bid to the local tree companies to try to get the best price for the town. I feel that I've done that. We have a company that's very responsive, but like all tree companies, and everybody else is having the same situations, people with damaged or diseased trees on their own property don't want them falling on the house, they don't want them falling on the neighbors, they don't want them falling out into the road to injure somebody or God forbid, kill somebody. So the tree companies are very busy. We have work scheduled, and it's constantly reprioritizing what's going on. You have a tree, you know it's bad, and then you get a phone call from a resident, which is great. Appreciate all the help we can get, but you get a phone call from a resident and you go look at that tree, and now that tree just moved to the top of the list. We did a lot of work along Route 27, and we took down 30 trees in the area of the transfer station on Route 27. There's probably 25 more to go. Pleasant Street, we took down a large number of trees, 23 trees down there, and then random trees throughout the town. With the winter that we had, it was a light winter.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, light winter. But there was a lot of high winds involved in this.
You have to worry, and I think that's something you have to, if you're somebody who has to keep an eye on it, because the last thing you want to have happen is have trees that'll come down on wires, whether it's cable wires or wires that provide electricity to homes. That's something that you got to be wary of 365 days a year.
Correct. And I've been working very closely with the arborist from National Grid. By the end of this year, I just spoke to him on my way over. They're coming back into town. They have about another 5 weeks worth of work. And National Grid and the contractors that they use are a huge help to the citizens of Hanson. They remove a lot of trees, trimming the power lines. And for for two reasons. Number one, to keep the tree from falling and injuring somebody, and number two, to keep the electricity going. By the end of this round of work, every power line, every right-of-way that they call it in the town of Hanson, all the major circuits will have been trimmed and cut back within the last 3 years, and that's pretty good. And we have a great relationship with them. If they're working in town and a situation arises and it has a possibility of involving wires, they will move their crew over and deal with it immediately. So I can't say enough about National Grid, that they've saved the town of Hanson thousands and thousands of dollars.
Okay. Talk to me about, do you also oversee preservation of trees? I mean, it isn't one of those things that you immediately decide, okay, we cut it down. What goes into the thought process of, can we retain this tree, or we should just cut it down because it's going to become a hazard down the road somewhere? We don't want to be dealing with this a second time around.
Well, there is some preservation work done. You can have a very large tree with a rotted leader coming off of it that's out over the road, and you can remove that, and hopefully that'll save the tree. But the ants, the bugs, the pine loopers, there's all kinds of diseases on the trees, and we don't have a spraying program, an insecticide program for taking care of the trees. Way back when Dutch elm disease was big, the highway department actually had somebody on staff that had all of his pesticide licenses. The problem with that now is, due to environmental regulations, it's a very, very expensive proposition.
Yeah, when you get the EPA involved, that definitely is expensive.
Correct, and the liability goes not only back to the operator but to the town.
Right.
If you're spraying pesticides and fertilizing trees, although it's good for the tree, it may not be good for the people. So we don't have that program in town anymore, and it's been quite a while since we have.
And you mentioned the Dutch elm. How about as far as, we're going to be coming up in the time of year when we're worried about the gypsy moth? If you remember many years back, that was a big thing when the gypsy moths were just basically chewing their way through every tree in sight.
And when that took place, the county and the state had their crews out spraying for the trees. It's not something the town did, but through the cooperation of the Plymouth County Extension Service as well as the State Forestry Division, they did a lot of spraying in town to help alleviate the problem. And the only people that, it made a big difference. Everybody didn't have all those little black pellets all over their cars and their driveways and their houses. That's something the tent caterpillars last year started to show their face, and with the winter that we've had, it doesn't appear that they're coming back, but that's something that's weather related.
You have to watch for.
Right, those larvae can sit dormant for 2 years and then come out.
Something to keep an eye on. Since you've been appointed, how many hours would you say a week are you dedicated to the position of tree warden? Do you find this to be a job that it's, you might have been expected when you to do so many hours, but you find yourself maybe exceeding that?
It's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. As the supervisor of the highway department, we'll get called out for trees that are in the road, but there are times when a resident will call on the weekend. We'll call the police station, and the police department will respond, and they'll call me and go out and look at it. And it's not overtime; it's part of the salary. There is a salary that goes to tree warden.
Okay.
At town meeting last week, this past Monday, they increased the salary to $2,995 a year.
That's it? $2,000 completely?
It's almost $3,000. It's $5 short of $3,000, and the budget.
It's a stipend, basically.
It's basically a stipend, correct. The budget is $5,000 a year. With the financial situations of the town, it would be great to be able to increase that, but it's less than 1% of the overall budget for the town. quite a bit less than 1%.
Talk to me about how serious you take this job and how much. Again, here we are. You're into your fifth or sixth month as the person who is the appointed tree warden. How serious are you about this position and wanting to be the tree warden for many years to come?
I'm very serious about it. Prior to being appointed, I worked very closely with the two former tree wardens, Bob Brown and Dick Harris. Spent a lot of time with them, learned a lot from them, how the whole process works, system works, and it's something that it's public safety. That's the key. Whether it's the tree warden of the highway department or the police department, the fire department,
Sure.
It's all public safety. We're all looking out for the best interests of the citizens of Hanson. And it's something I take very serious. And there's so much work that needs to be done. And this isn't something new, me trying to do it. It's been for years trying to increase the budget and get more work and attempt to, at some point, get equipment. Back in the 70s, the town actually had a tree department with 3 men, and all they did was trees. The highway department currently will do the roadside mowing for the small brush, for line of sight issues.
Yep.
People coming up to the end of the road and being able to look left and right.
Sure.
Cut that back. The major trees, we pick them up when they fall. We try to get them before they fall. And then you can have huge storms that come through 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts, and you have 1 or 2 branches fall. And then you can have a nice, calm, quiet July evening, and a 50-foot pine tree will just decide to fall. It's tough. You can't see what's inside every tree. Just as the water department can't see what water main is going to break underground, you're looking at a tree. It may look good from the outside, and then
You never know what's going on internally.
know what's going on internally, and you look up, and just because there's leaves on a tree doesn't mean that tree is alive and thriving. When we get to it and cut it down, it's scary to see that out of that 14-inch tree that 10 inches of it in the dead center is completely gone and rotted out.
Okay.
So it is, I take it very seriously. It's very important to provide the service. It's very frustrating at times too, with, as we said, the instances around us of trees randomly falling and people getting injured. That's something that the majority of the phone calls that I've taken in the last month and a half, say 9 out of 10 of those phone calls, somebody will say, we don't want that to happen in Hanson.
Right.
Well, there's nobody that doesn't want that to happen more in Hanson than myself.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because the issue that you mentioned where the couple from Whitman, there was an incident that took place in Abington, there is a ongoing conversation in regards to who is at fault. Is the homeowner, the property owner, are they at fault, or is the town? Was it on town property? And again, that conversation is still going back and forth, and that's not the crux of this conversation here. But that's something you have to be aware of at all times when it comes to this, right?
Correct. And we had an instance last winter, had a very large tree fall from school department. It was at one of the schools, which the schools in Hanson are on Hanson town property.
Right.
It fell, went through a neighbor's fence and into their swimming pool.
Ooh, a diving board.
Yeah, it broke the diving board.
Oh.
And the issue became, through the insurance company, were we, the town, aware that that tree was unhealthy? Well, no, we weren't. It was off the beaten path. It was in the woods. It fell. If it was a tree that we were aware of, that we had marked to have removed and didn't remove it in time and it fell, then the liability is on us. Tough place to be in.
Okay. What's the length of term for this post? And during the time, if you are fortunate on May 21st to be elected for your first time and go from appointed to elected, what would you like to do over the length of your term in regards as to being a tree warden?
Okay, well, the term is a 3-year term.
Okay.
And that is, by statute, it's, if the position is elected, it can be, anybody can run for the position. If the position were to change to go from an elected position to an appointed position, then the town would have to appoint somebody who's a licensed arborist with all of their licenses, and I don't think you'll find one to do it for $2,995 a year. One of the things I would like to do is attempt to increase, and this is nothing new, this is something that Dick Harris and Bob Brown have both tried to do, increase the budget, make it more realistic. The trees in the town, it's something that's been neglected for a long time financially. It would be nice to be able to get some more equipment to have some of the work that the town employees can do, that the highway department
Instead of farming it out to other companies, right?
Right. So it would be nice to slowly, I'm not saying we should, quadruple the budget in year one, but at this point, we should be looking at going back to town meeting in October for more money for more removals. And that's the only way that you can actually get enough money. The $5,000 a year that's budgeted is pretty much for emergencies. If you have a tree that snaps off in the top and it's hanging over the road, you have to call in a company with a bucket truck on an emergency basis
Take care of
to come
it,
in and remove it. And every time you do that, it costs money. So that's what we're trying to do. Increase it, make it better. And back in the 70s, as I said, there was a tree department. There's not anymore.
Other than maintaining the trees that the town has, or eliminating trees that could become hazardous and possibly harm somebody, is there anything that's done by you as tree warden to grow more trees? I mean, is there any plantings, or is that not something that's not part of the job?
It does fall under the outline of the job according to the Mass General laws. Again, it's a money issue.
Limited money.
Limited funds. And years ago, I can remember we got through I believe it was the Extension Service, a bunch of saplings, and we went around and planted them in various places in town. But that's a program, again, it's another state program. The money's not there for it anymore.
If only you could get grant money like that, then you could do something, implement
Correct.
something like that, okay. The one thing, I joked earlier that this is the only race on the ballot, but I don't think there's going to be a low voter turnout. You and I both know that, for the simple fact is that there will be a ballot question in regards to a Prop 2.5 override. I believe the town of Hanson's portion is a little more than $1.2 million. So you are going to see people coming out and voting.
Yes.
Are you anticipating getting a little bit of a residual that your race will get a bump, because people are not only going to be coming for that ballot question, but they can go, hey, there's a race here, and choose accordingly?
I would hope so. I would hope so. I would hope that, voting is a right that every citizen has, and sometimes it's shameful how low the voter turnout is. With this ballot question on there, there will be a good turnout, even though it's the only contested race. It will help. It'll help everybody.
What's it been like going out and campaigning? I see the signs are popping up. What's it like going out and talking to people about voting? Is this new to you, and how does it feel?
It's not new to me. I haven't run for a town office before, but I've been involved in various other campaigns for friends, whether it be for selectmen or state rep, so I've been involved in the
You're
campaign.
a politically driven guy.
Right. I've attended town meetings since I was 10 or 12 years old, and always sat on the side when they used to be at Indian Head School, because it was something that fascinated me, and the politics of it fascinated me. So I'm looking forward to it. It's been great talking to people. There's so many people that have no idea what the tree warden is, and that there is a tree warden. I got a comment sent to me the other day that, well, I'd like you to come handcuff all the trees in my backyard because they're dropping leaves. It's a tree warden, eh?
Yeah. It's kind of, people got to be clever and
right,
and tongue-in-cheek type of comments.
Right, but it is something. The tree warden's position has been on the books for almost forever in the state. There is a need to have somebody to oversee this. Now, besides for the dead and diseased trees, if there is a healthy shade tree that is on somebody's property and they want to remove it, if it's in front of their house but it's within the layout of the road, it's actually on town property, there is a procedure to go through where they can request a hearing. You have to post the tree, have a hearing, see if anybody has any objections to removing that tree. So it's not just cut it down and move on.
It's not cut and dry, so to speak.
No pun intended, correct.
No pun intended. But there's a lot of moving parts, and you have to know the legalities before you remove or you do anything to said tree.
Correct. And we the town, try not to remove any live trees unless it's a hazard for whatever reason. Sometimes a line of sight, a new road gets put in, and there's a big 14-inch pine tree right at the edge of the road.
Uh-oh.
People trying to pull out of the road can't see. Well, that tree should be removed. But as I said, the majority of the trees that we remove are dead, damaged, diseased, hazardous trees. Anything that poses a hazard to the public, and that's not just on the roads, the walking public. The highway department trims back along the sidewalks. You know, that is within the layout of the road, and they trim that back. We've had a good roadside maintenance program for quite a few years now.
Okay. All right, well, we got a little less than 3 minutes left.
Really?
Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun and talking
Yes,
about
it
trees.
does.
If you had an opportunity to look in that camera over there and tell folks the passion you have for the position and how much you'd like to be the town's next elected tree warden, please feel free to do so.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Again, my name's David Hanlon. I'm a candidate for the tree warden. I have been involved with the tree wardens in the past to ensure the public safety in this town, and that is my goal, is to continue to strive to keep the roads and the walkways in town safe, and hope that you'll show your support for me. I have a lot of experience in this position, having worked since 2007 with Mr. Harris and right up until today. So I'd appreciate your vote and your support.
And I want to thank you very much for coming in here and talking about it. It was it's a little known. I got to learn something in regards to the position. I know when you and I talked on the phone, I chuckled about it. I made the same, comments in regards to, policing trees. And
it's true. And somebody referred to it as, well, there's clam wardens. I guess we can have tree wardens too. But it is something. It is a very important position in town, and it doesn't. I don't want to pat my own back, but it is a position that's very important, and a lot of people don't realize how important it is.
Until there is the important shows itself.
Until there's an issue. And as I said, with National Grid, there's a lot, because they're the electric provider in town, and there's a lot of work involved with National Grid for all the trees that they cut that are on town property but impeding their lines. And again, that just ensures that our residents have power.
Dave, thank you very much.
Kevin, thank you.
I wish you the best of luck. I hope that this will be a race that folks will get out for, other than the ballot question. And to you at home, it's important to get out and make your voice heard, not just for things like overrides when it comes to spending money in town, but important positions like this. If you have a chance, be sure to get out. Saturday, May 21st, I believe the polls will be open till 5 over at the Moquan School. Make your vote count. Otherwise, well, I mean, that's what the democratic process is about, for you to be heard. Until next time, have a great day.